Kentucky lawmakers may consider legislation dealing with vehicular homicide laws in future sessions. Some prosecutors say Kentucky's laws do little to help victims of deadly DUI crashes. Today, a Tennessee state lawmaker testified about a new law there that requires some offenders to pay benefits to victims. WYMT's Phil Pendleton has more on that law in reaction to it from a Southern Kentucky prosecutor.
Sadly, there have been a number of deadly DUI crashes in this part of Kentucky, some of them being very high-profile cases. There was one here 12 years ago in which a parent was killed. There's been a law passed in Tennessee that would require DUI offenders to pay child support in those types of situations. That bill was Tennessee House Bill 1834. It requires deadly DUI offenders to pay child support if the victim of the crash leaves behind children. A lawmaker shared more about that bill to lawmakers in the Interim Judiciary Committee this morning. Jackie Steele is the Commonwealth's attorney in Laurel County and says he believes victims of crime need more guarantees of restitution. He says there's been a huge problem for years in victims not being properly compensated for crimes against them. Had this been a law in Kentucky 12 years ago, he says it would have benefited the children of a man killed in a September 2010 crash on Kentucky Highway 80.
An individual was coming home from work, was struck and killed by a drunk driver. Had a young child. I think the child was 4 or 5 years old at the time. So I dealt with the child's mother and the widow of the man that was killed.
I spoke with another prosecutor in this part of the state who tells me what Kentucky truly needs is a tough vehicular homicide law that would result in longer sentences for deadly DUI offenders. In Laurel County, Phil Pendleton, now back to you.
Today's testimony took place in an interim committee meeting where lawmakers gather information while they prepare to write up laws for consideration in next year's session.
After a warm, humid, and at times stormy day on our Wednesday, Thursday is looking much, much nicer. Outside right now, blue skies as far as the eye can see with just a few fair weather clouds out there. It looks like a beautiful spring day. It really is a late spring day out there. You can see those clouds moving over the sun. You see the changes in the intensity there of the sunlight at our front door in the parking lot. Buffalo Mountain here in Perry County. Another cloud about to move over the sun, mid-70s out there, and that's where most of us are, low to mid-70s. Though Jonesville checking in at 81 and just across the border in Wise, 68. So yeah, same thing in Logan. So some of us where we've seen a few more clouds today getting in on a little bit more of the cooler air. You see those clouds pushing through the Big Sandy. Those are working on out. It's the last of the moisture from last night's front pushing on through. So we're in great shape as we run through the rest of tonight. Mid-50s, mostly clear. I'll have the latest on when things change for the soggier coming up in just a few minutes. Steve?
The Pikeville Police Department is asking for your help in locating 2 suspects involved in a motorcycle chase. Officers with the Pikeville PD tried to stop a man and woman on a motorcycle without registration plates on Hambly Boulevard on June 6th, but the operator got away, running a red light and driving towards US 119. Pikeville PD posted photos on social media shortly after, received tips from people in the community, and confirmed the driver and passengers' identities as Tyrone Davis and Holly Bates.
Wasn't very long after that our police department got tips on who they were, confirmed them, and obtained arrest warrants for the male operator.
Officer Kahn says if you know the whereabouts of Davis or Bates, to call the Pikeville Police Department at 606-437-5111. There's a picture of them. Or you can message the Pikeville PD Facebook page. As the addiction epidemic continues to grow, we have also seen a rise in success stories of people overcoming. Among those is the Hazard Rebound Center's J.J. Fultz, who now works as a peer support specialist. Fultz says it's not as easy as flipping a switch to overcome addiction.
Recovery for me, like you couldn't just like throw me out back into the wild, let me leave treatment and then put me right back into the neighborhood where I used to get high at. You know, because it's hard. So is what I did, man, I gradually stepped down.
We'll have more on a couple of success stories at the Rebound Center tonight at 6. A bipartisan effort to reduce gun violence is said to be making progress and could be the best hope for any movement to address mass shootings. Those discussions come as the House passes new gun measures for the second day in a row, although they have a slim chance of clearing the Senate. CBS's Skylar Henry has the latest from Washington.
The bill is passed.
House lawmakers approved a red flag law designed to keep guns away from people considered a danger to themselves or others. The vote, largely along party lines, followed a final round of heated debate.
We cannot continue to be the only country in the world where we let gun violence happen again and again and again.
If House Democrats were so worried about violence, they wouldn't open the borders, open the prisons, and then disarm law-abiding Americans who want to protect themselves and protect their families.
The vote came just a day after the House passed a separate package of gun restrictions, including raising the purchasing age of semi-automatic weapons. But the reforms have little chance in the Senate, even after wrenching congressional testimony from parents of a victim of the Uvalde school shooting.
I left my daughter at that school, and that decision will haunt me for the rest of my life.
More modest gun reforms are under discussion among a bipartisan group of senators, including Texas Republican John Cornyn. Their focus, background checks, mental health, and school safety.
If we can secure our airports post 9/11, we can secure our schools.
Democrat Chuck Schumer was optimistic about their progress.
They hope to get something real done very soon.
The majority leader says when the group does come to an agreement, he'll bring it to a vote as quickly as possible. Skylar Henry, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
American troops stationed in Europe are testing new remote-controlled weapons as part of a strategy to help protect allies in the region. The war in Ukraine shows the need for these kinds of weapons, with both sides suffering heavy losses. While U.S. troops are not in that fight, they are getting ready in case Russia goes after a NATO ally. If that happens, the military believes robots could save soldiers' lives.
Instead of sacrificing all 4 of my men initially, or 6 of my men out there, I can send this up front first, do the probing, get the positive identification at other tanks.
Robotic trucks can keep troops well armed while reducing the risk to drivers, giving troops a path to keep safe on the battlefield. Turning to Ukraine, President Zelensky said last night that Russia's naval blockade could lead to starvation for millions of people around the world because Ukraine cannot export its wheat and corn. But there's also a local food crisis, with 45% of Ukrainians struggling to find enough to eat. That's according to the World Food Program, and that's because wheat fields have become minefields and farmers risk getting blown off their tractors by Russian rockets. If Mykolaiv falls, there's little stopping Russian forces from capturing Odessa, and with it, the entire coast of the Black Sea. Coming up on First at 4, the systems in today's new cars can help prevent a crash, but we look at new research showing why the technology cannot stop every accident.
Plus, we continue to watch the potential for showers to return to the forecast as we head into tomorrow. The latest timing next.